Hello, fellow humans. One of the questions I hear a lot lately is how do you convince people that we must phase out capitalism and phase in degrowth? To avoid the collapse of civilization. Robert Cialdini, in his book Persuasion, A Revolutionary Way to Influence and Persuade, writes, "The best persuaders become the best through persuasion, the process of arranging for recipients to be receptive to a message before they encounter it. To persuade optimally, then, it's necessary to persuade optimally." Okay, let's oppose this to what we learned from Robert Sapolsky, that we actually do not have free will, and that we do not have a choice in what to think and how to behave. Are we free or not? Can we convince each other to change our lifestyle and prevent the collapse of life on Earth? This is a different kind of essay. It's raw. There's no green screen behind me. Does this make me more persuasive? Cialdini identified 6 psychological principles deployed in the influence businesses: reciprocation, liking, social proof, authority, scarcity, and consistency. We can talk a lot about facts. There are many hard facts, many inconvenient and uncontestable facts. Humans have burned more CO2 in the last 33 years than in the 240 years since the Industrial Revolution. 25% of the GDP of the global north since 1990 is theft of labor, land, and energy from the global south. In 2022, 125 billionaires emitted 3 million tons of CO2 a year through their investments, over a million times more than the average for someone in the bottom 90% of humanity. The world's richest 1% own 43% of all global financial assets. The richest 10% are responsible for 50% of greenhouse gas emissions. The emissions of the 1% are said to be over 22 times more than the safe limit in 2030. Dharavi is typically 6 degrees hotter than its richer immediate neighbouring area in Mumbai, India. If we look at the ethical poverty line, there are more poor people today than 3 decades ago. Children in Congo dig up cobalt with their hands so we can use it in our gadgets. 783 million people are unsure where their next meal is coming from. With current warming trends, 1.2 billion people could be forced to migrate by 2050. How does this make you feel? Are you feeling any sort of validation for your emotions? Are these facts new to you? Do you have a set of values and beliefs that are challenged when you hear these facts? Thoughts and emotions are both operations of what the brain does. Often it is difficult to define when a thought ends and an emotion begins, or vice versa. If we listen to determinism, we realize we do not have a personal agency or a tiny human inside our head that creates our thoughts. If we are determinists, we may conclude that there's nothing that can be done to persuade each other. We can read and apply all the Cialdinis in the world, but if the person is not already constructed to change their mind, no amount of persuasion or persuasion would change their mind. We can try all sort of techniques to influence them, from hammering them with facts or with emotional stories to elicit empathy. We can try suggestive words, metaphors, and epithets vague enough to leave room for interpretation. Manipulate their fears. We can talk and behave like Gandhi or Mussolini and then build followers with very different mindsets. But were those mindsets created or just harnessed? Were those people already thinking or feeling in a certain way before an influencer just collected them in a group of followers? Or was it the influencer who created the thinking and feelings in their followers? It's a bit of both, and scientifically, one can argue that there was no freedom of choice in either interpretation. Which brings us to the next question. Should we chase existing public opinion, or should we attempt to create public opinion? Chase or create? Here in YouTube, it appears that content creators need to chase what people want to watch if they want to get views. But what if there's something to say that people do not know they want to watch? How do we deal with that? Take degrowth, for example. It is not yet a mainstream idea, but it is important, very important. It is existential. I would even argue that if we as a society do not adopt degrowth policies very soon, we risk the end of civilization. So degrowth is an important subject, and most people don't know they need to know about it. They do know intuitively what satisfies their needs. People do know what they believe in, and most of them can even articulate that in words. Back to persuasion. How do we convince people that capitalism and by extension consumerism are self-destructive, that our economy would need to go on a drastic diet on average to avoid the end of civilization? To consent to something is to signal that you willingly accept it. But this acceptance can be of two kinds. Active consent, one that deems the situation intrinsically desirable and therefore legitimate. Passive consent, one that deems the situation regrettable but unavoidable. Ideology does play a role, but it is more as a reaction to the system's stabilization and not as its source. By system, you can think of capitalism. Ideology is the medium by which actors respond to their location in the structure, not the factor that binds them to it. Workers accept capitalism not because they don't understand what is happening to them, how they are exploited, and how the capitalist class reaps all the benefit. Workers accept the arrangement because they do not have an alternative. They have to put food on the table. They have to pay rent and mortgage. They have to take their children to daycare and expensive activities. They have to do overtime. They have to maintain and increase their social status. It is a mix of complacency, cost-benefit calculations, and resignation. Persuasion cannot break that if it does not offer another story, a much better story that it is easier to embrace because it makes the cost-benefit calculation yield different results. I would argue that when a much better story comes along, it would not require persuasion or persuasion, sorry Robert Cialdini, because the story would be something people already expected and wanted. Degrowth offers a different story. So here is where I wanted to land with this video. An economic diet in general, yes, but what does it mean for me? There are many good things in the news stories, so I will pick 3 for you. Work time reduction. Would you like to work 20 hours per week? I would answer for you and say yes. Who wouldn't? Who would not like more free time to think, talk to family and friends, go to parties or walk in nature? The catch is that these 20 hours will both phase out capitalism and phase in a new kind of economy. We will work much less at making dishwashing machines and smart TVs, but we will work more at growing our own organic food or engaging with our community. The catch is we will also phase out personal cars, jet skis, private jets, SUVs, and other things that use a lot of materials and energy. We will also phase out large mansions with nobody living in them. We will phase out frequent flying and phase in local traveling on public transportation, bicycles, and party bikes. That's the catch for working less. We will need much less. So a new kind of economy. Maximum income. Needs and need satisfiers are subjective and cultural dependent. We all need water. We all need food. We all need access to information. But how many cars do we need? How many TVs and laptops? How many kilometers flying? Putting a maximum limit on income is meant to send a signal and the moral revolution that both needs and need satisfiers are objectively bound to what the physical environment can provide. As I said in this video, The transition from need to want is like the transition from drinking water to survive to wanting ice cream. Maximum income, decided democratically by all of us, will tell the ruling class that their debauchery must end because it is causing the end of civilization and life on Earth, with how they live and where they invest their money. It's simple. How much should a maximum income be? We can decide together as a society in citizen assemblies. This is my personal number. Job guarantee. Let's get rid of unemployment forever. You need a job, you want a job, you got it. Paid well so you don't need to take a second job to pay for a living. The guaranteed jobs will be created by the community where you live, based on the needs of your community. You will be paid from public money to do something meaningful, not a bullshit job like you probably do today. Imagine phasing out the anxiety with not having a job, the fear of falling into poverty, the dread of losing the respect of your peers. The job guarantee phases out the power employers have over us when they can terminate our employment whenever they want. We can phase in the security that we can leave our BS jobs and take a job guarantee closer to where we live, where our thoughts and feelings actually matter. We phase in genuine freedom. These examples were meant not to attempt persuasion, but to illustrate how persuasion is not even necessary. On a gut level, you feel something is right with these ideas. You may want to know more about the details, and that is fine. This is the kind of conversation that needs to start now in a forum like a citizen assembly, with your mayor, your elected representatives, your union, your colleagues, your friends. We can discover together the format of the new economy. I close with a funny quote. We shall endeavor to spread the bread thin on the butter, to make what work there is still to be done, to be as widely shared as possible. 3-hour shifts or a 15-hour week may put off the problem for a great while. For 3 hours a day is quite enough to satisfy the old Adam in most of us. It's from Essays on Persuasion by none other than John Maynard Keynes, published in 1931. Click the subscribe, engage. You know what to do if you want others to think about this. No convincing, it's already in you. Until next time, be well and increase the peace.